hello. Hello, you have made it. I knew you would. You're always very good about that. And Top Ace, thank you so very, very much. 58 months. That is a ridiculous achievement. Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And hello, everyone. Hello there. Hi. Thank you for being here, for arriving on time. And thank you all for all of your well wishes. I know it was rather terrible timing. Rather terrible timing on my part. Hey guys, I'm going to go out into the real world and go wreak some havoc in a convention. Was how it started. The convention went very well. I know several of you have asked about it. So the convention was awesome. It was wonderful. It was so much fun being out there mingling amongst you humans and, you know, stabbing you consensually for money. It was a lot of fun. But that said, I did come down with a rather nasty case of con plague, and it took me down and out. Just down and out. I was toast. I was toast. I could not get out of bed for right around 2 weeks or so. But I am mostly recovered now. My voice is still a little bit rough, and if you hear some fan-like sounds in the bathroom, yeah, all right, Pay, in the background, that is because I'm presently running a space heater. I am still having temperature regulation issues, so I apologise. I apologise. But I won't be turning it off. You're supposed to be asleep and wake up in 3 hours, but here I am watching the best druid. Well, thank you, Hapsberg. I appreciate you. But do make sure you get some sleep. You know, I work wonderfully as YouTube radio. Feel free to go ahead and, you know, lay down, get comfortable, get in a nice position, modulate the volume of my voice for yourself. We'll get into a story in a little bit here that hopefully will help you drift off. But I appreciate the dedication of being here. And Shads, 35 months. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you. Top Ace. Oh no. I know. All right. Archive. I see what you're doing here over on the Twitch chat. Okay. I see the hype train. I see it. And I'm going to tell you this. All right. I'm just going to say it plainly. I am not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. You cannot make me do it. It is not going to happen. But I appreciate you and all of your support. You are truly too kind. Thank you so much. Welcome back, hey. Well, thank you, Kronos. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sorry your chat was bugging out, but glad you got it working now. That's wonderful. And hello, Striker. Hello, Striker. Hello. Well, I have had an interesting couple of weeks. I'm going to walk you through my quick process here, because I know last week I was technically feeling better in time for stream, but because of all of the time that I had spent dying in bed like a small Victorian child, I did not have time to adequately prepare for our stream, because as you know, I always present you, well, typically always present you, with a choose your own horror story. And I do enjoy these, but they do require a lot of setup on my end, not the least of which is essentially writing the same story 9 separate times. And then, naturally, you know, I have to create all of the lovely little pop-ups for you and all of that, and come Thursday afternoon, I just realised there was no way I was getting it done. So I do apologise for that. And we do have a wonderful choose your own horror story set and ready to go for next week, because I realised that it has been quite some time. It has been quite some time since I got the opportunity to just sit here and play the bard and tell you a story, a tale from the Rift Town, as it were. And I've decided that that's what we're going to do tonight. And then we shall get back to our normal candlelight conclave for next week. But before we get into things, now that I have rambled on and on plenty long enough, you know, we do need our question of the day. Be honest with me. Did any of you hear the little pan flute jingle for question of the day go off in your head? Or am I the only one that's still Pavloved from that after all this time? Because I said question of the day, and I immediately, somewhere in the back of my brain, it went do 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 do. All right. So anyway, today's question of the day: what place looks strange under one specific condition? So whether that be strange lighting, weather, silence, what's one familiar place that feels strange when you change one element of it? Kronos, you felt something was missing. Nostalgia. And Mikey in the Twitch chat trying to press the question of the day trigger button. You know what? You know what, guys? I might see if I can still find the file. If I still have the file, I will reintroduce the question of the day song. If I still have the file, okay? If I still have the file. Let's see. Habsburg says, your room if you don't clean it. You know what? That's fair. That's fair. When your room gets out of control, suddenly it doesn't feel like it's your room anymore. A primary school. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Schools in general, just, they feel so strange. Whether it's like after hours and most of the lights are off, or even if it's just after school time and the school is still open for like parent-teacher conferences or like a parents' night or something like that. Or whether you're returning as an adult, like either with your own children or for job perspective or whatever it happens to be. Oh yes, schools are so strange. So strange. Shads, for you, it's just the suburbs around your area when the time of day is just right. You know what? That's absolutely fair. It's absolutely fair. Vanna Montana, your closet. Okay, but I need more information about your closet. Are we talking like your closet in the middle of the night? Are we talking your closet at like 3 p.m. in the afternoon? I need to know. Any place looks weird with enough darkness. You're not wrong, Emmy. You're not wrong. Not wrong at all. Your closet in your room. Okay, so your closet is just a strange place. Emmy, I've passed by my former school sometimes and they feel completely empty. It turns into a liminal space. Yeah. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It does. Big comfy couch brony gal. Sorry you're late, currently outside. No worries. No worries. I operate on a schedule. Of course I do. But it tends to be a bit flexible. And you're never expected to be here. You're just welcome whenever you happen to show up. Let's see, the train station. You remove a kiosk or a sign and suddenly everything is completely different. Yep. Yeah, train stations are one of those places that I think are already halfway to liminal space on their own. For me, I think it's hallways. Hallways just at that time of day. Like right before the lamps have to be lit or before you have to turn the lights on. Like when the windows have just enough light to still see through, but the shadows are starting to stretch down the hall and things are getting dark in the corners. You can still see, but not enough to really trust what you're seeing. You know what I mean? Like that weird time in late afternoon. The sun's not fully down. It's not full dark yet, and you're kind of like questioning, should I bother turning the lights on yet? Can I wait another hour? That time is when hallways are just the worst for me. Absolutely hate it. Absolutely hate it. All right. Well, since question of the day is out of the way, I think you all know by now, or at least I hope you do. I hope you're falling into the rhythm, because now it is time for Knock or Nope, where we decide if we're investigating or evacuating. So I'm going to set the stage, and you tell me how bold you're feeling today. Are we ready? Here's our first scenario. You find muddy footprints in your kitchen. They're not yours. You live alone. Knock or Nope? What do we think? How are we responding to this one? I see Emmy and Mikey immediately say nope. Nope, we are noping the heck out. Emerald and Shads, oh, you were feeling bold. And Vanna, we're going to knock. So, I just want to point out, for those of you that said knock, this is how you die in horror movies. You get that, right? Investigating the strangeness by yourself is how you die. This is how you die. This is the equivalent of being the stereotypical white person in a horror movie that hears weird sounds in the middle of the night and decides to go investigate alone without bringing their phone or any kind of weapon or protection. They're just like, I'll just wander my way down to the basement and see what's going on. I'm sure everything will be fine. And then everything is very much not fine. Not fine. No. For those of you that decided to nope, well done. Well done. I appreciate you and your healthy sense of paranoia. In my mind, nope means grabbing your phone and then getting the hell out of the house immediately to a safe distance and phoning the police. Be like, hello, police. Yes, I woke up and I went downstairs to my kitchen this morning and there are muddy footprints all over my kitchen floor. They don't belong to me. I wear a size 6. These look like they might have been left by Bigfoot. I live alone and it rained last night. Would you kindly please come check out my home? I'm outside across the street in my car, which is already running because I'm ready to drive away. Thanks. Thanks. Nope means quick escape and call the cops. Indeed it does. Indeed it does. All right. All right, let's try the next one. Let's try the next one. Here we go. An unknown number texts your phone. The text reads, I'm outside. There's no additional context. Knock or nope? Nope, it's a wrong number or a trap. Big nope, nope. Okay, I feel like this is the best version of knock. I text back, so am I. Yes, this reminds me of advice that I heard is a wonderful piece of advice to give to children who are like afraid of monsters in their closet or under their bed, which is if they're scared, you tell them, just make scary monster sounds yourself. Make scary monster sounds yourself. Be more scary than the monster so it's afraid of you. Texting back, so am I, is just that via text message. I absolutely love that escalation, even if it is a knock. And I think this is where I land as well. I think I would also knock in similar fashion, although I would most likely go with something like, I know, I'm behind you, or something like that, just because it would amuse the heck out of me. Let's see, I'm seeing a bunch of nopes. Chronos, nope, probably an Uber or something. Yes, that is an excellent survival strategy. Nope, let me order myself an Uber. I did see someone mentioned someone mentioned that they would just assume it was a wrong number. And that is a level of gaslighting of yourself that I do not recommend. I do not recommend that. No. No, but trying to come up with reasons why this might be okay and innocent is how you die. It's how you die. Trying to rationalize things that are not rational, you're always going to be able to find what feels like a logical answer. And all you're doing in that case is you are overriding that internal gut punch mechanism that you have, right? You know, like when something just sits in your gut and it's like, this doesn't feel right. Maybe you get goosebumps. Maybe, you get that tickle at the back of your neck when the little hairs stand up on end. That is, hundreds and hundreds of years of your ancestors screaming out to you, hey, this is danger. We should not be overriding that by being like, you know what? There's probably a logical explanation for this. Well, yes, there may be a logical explanation, and it may be entirely innocent. But to just come up with a reason on our own and then trust it implicitly, no, this is how bad things happen. This is how bad things happen. And Jordan Hunter and Uber in this economy? All right, that was wonderful. That was great. Excellent. Rumble, danger, Will Robinson. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Right on. All right. Are we ready for the next one? Let's see. Ahem. You're in an elevator. It stops between floors. The lights stay on. Knock or nope? What do you think? This one's a little bit tricky because we're between floors. It's not like noping out is very easy. So what are we going to do? All right, I'm seeing some knocks. I'm seeing some nopes. I'm seeing some very, very valid questions. Yes. What does nope even look like? What does knock even look like in this case? And now we're questioning the environment. This is good. I like this. So Top Ace has decided, I'm going to knock. And Top Ace has also decided what knocking looks like. So Top Ace says knock, as in open the elevator door. I'd be curious. That, or I'd start pushing buttons. Which is good. I also saw some mention of, is there an elevator call button? It looks like people might want to press that, see if we can get a hold of someone to figure out what's going on. Excellent. Yes. Wonderful. And nope means I'm sitting in the corner breathing heavily. Yes. We'll just back ourselves into a corner, back against the wall, maximum invisibility. And we'll just breathe heavily. We're preparing for the worst. Yes. Quite like this one. Well done. Oh my gosh. As a reminder for all of you lovely people in chat, English only in the chat, please. So that way other people can understand you. We are a predominantly English-speaking community. And it makes it incredibly difficult to moderate the chat if you're using a language we do not speak. Is that wild? It is wild. It is a wild Horrormancer. Hello, Harvey. It is, yes, hello. Pretty sure that was probably a bot. Yeah, most likely. Most likely. All right, so for our elevator, it looks like we basically have two options. One is... I'm telling you not... What is this? What is going on in this chat? What the heck? Emmy, can you just go ahead and remove this person? Because I'm vastly confused. I'm vastly confused. Anyway. So our elevator. Typically, when we knock on Nope, our options are investigate or just get the heck out of there. In this scenario, of course, we are unable to... What the heck? Alright, I need to just stop looking at the chat because I have no idea what's going on. I'll let Emmy handle it. Let Emmy handle it. But if we're trapped in a locked elevator, we can't exactly just nope out. I mean, I suppose we could try and force open the doors. Or perhaps we can, embrace our inner horror movie, final girl energy and try climbing out the top of the elevator. That seems pretty inherently dangerous, especially when we don't know what's going on. So I think in this instance, I am likely to knock myself, which is... probably press a couple of different level buttons and see if we can't get to a new level. Or press that elevator call button and see what answers. At that point, we can try and figure out where to go from there. But I think knocking in this instance is definitely the correct move. Definitely the correct move. All right, so that one was a little bit clunky. I apologise. I had no idea what was going on in the stream there, and I got a little bit confused. So let's do just one more. Let's do just one more, and here it is. You hear slow breathing coming through your baby monitor. You don't have a baby. Knock or nope? What do we think? This one is all kinds of extra levels of tricky. This is the real knock or nope. A bunch of people spamming foreign messages that may be omens. Listen, as frustrating and as annoying as it is, the algorithm likes the engagement, so I'm fine with it. All right, Scotty is saying knock. Vanna with all the nope. Nope, 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 nope. Spider's going to knock because you don't have a baby monitor either. Knock, you need to know what's going on. Knock, knock. Top ace, nope, I'm getting an exorcist medium or whatever else I can find. Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Hovey, I think I'm in the wrong house. Rumble, I'd probably knock on this one. All right, so for those of you that said knock, walk me through it. What does knocking look like in this scenario? What are you going to do? How exactly are you going to investigate? Because knocking is you've decided to investigate. So you are in your house, and you're hearing someone breathing through a baby monitor, but you don't have a baby. So therefore, you probably didn't have a baby monitor either. Jordan, call in the Winchesters, call in Buffy, call in the Ghostbusters and Professor Layton. Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so knocking in rhythm to shave and a haircut, 2 bits. See if someone's hiding inside your house. Hopefully they're a toon, because we know toons can't resist. You know, they just can't. I mean, if I see a baby in my house, I'd let him or her have one of my plushies. But if it's not in my house, I'd ignore it. Well, no, you're in your house. You're in your house. In this scenario, you are absolutely in your house, and all of a sudden, there's just breathing through this baby monitor. You don't have a baby. This could go one of two ways. Either you don't have a baby yet because you or your partner is pregnant and they're going to have a child soon, so you've been preparing. Or maybe, you know, you're on list for adoption and you're waiting for your sweet little bundle of joy. Or the absolute worst case scenario, all of a sudden, there's just a baby monitor in your house. Which I think somehow makes it a lot worse. Makes it a lot worse. Pick up the baby monitor and holler into it. That's assuming it is a two-way baby monitor. A lot of them aren't, but if it were, yes, you could absolutely do that. You could absolutely do that. It's an excellent way to knock. And for those of you that are noping, for those of you that decided, nope, I want nothing to do with this, I am in your camp. I am in your camp. Because what I would do if I just woke up randomly and now I hear someone breathing through a baby monitor, I would go, I'm not pregnant. I don't have small children. I'm not expecting a baby. I'm not adopting one. There's no inbound baby into my life. I don't own a baby monitor. There's no reason for me to have purchased a baby monitor. Why is there a baby monitor in my house? Because now I realise not only is someone breathing into this baby monitor, someone has broken into my home to place a baby monitor in my house in order to breathe ominously through it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get up, grab the baby monitor and my phone, exit the house, get in my car, drive a safe distance away and phone the police. Because we don't play that game. Oh no. And why did we bring the baby monitor? When we're noping out, why did we grab the baby monitor? Can anyone tell me? Can anyone tell me? Because there's a method to the madness. Yes, Emmy. Evidence. Evidence, fingerprints. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We bring the baby monitor because this, in and of itself, avoids us phoning the police and explaining what happened. And the police coming back in the house and going, there's no baby monitor. What are you talking about? This way here. Oh no, officer. I have the baby monitor. You're not gaslighting me. Not gaslighting me. This was in my house. Please check it for prints. Yes, yes. Evidence is important when we are dealing with the weird. With the weird. Because we know what happens when we are in weird, odd, and strange situations. People will try to gaslight us, even if it's unintentional. You know, it's not necessarily malicious that they're trying to gaslight us, but it's a lot easier for people to just go, you're crazy, than it is to go, oh, yes, let's investigate this house for a potential break-in and investigate this baby monitor that does not exist. Yeah. No, we want to prevent the gaslighting. This is how we nope effectively. Because we're not just running for our lives. Oh no, we're smart about it. This is how we get final girl energy, even if you're not a girl. If the proof disappears in the house, at least you have tangible proof of it. Correct. Correct. What if it's a haunted baby monitor and you bring the spirit with you? This is why we carry pocket salt. Kronos, this is why we carry pocket salt. If you're not carrying pocket salt currently, please reevaluate your life choices. That's all I have to say for that one. Well, I quite enjoy doing Knock or Nope. I think this one was a lot of fun. But, can you use sage with the salt? Obviously. Listen, if your pocket salt is not actually a mixture of salt, sage, and little iron filings, what even are you doing with yourself? What even are you doing with yourself? No, what are the three things that bother evil spirits? Iron, salt, and sage. Why do we not just mix them all together? I mean, break open an Etch-a-Sketch. It's not that difficult. I don't know. I don't have any pockets. Have you considered a very stylish belt? Much like mine, you can attach pouches and things like that to them. There's a reason why I wear 3 at any given time, at minimum. At minimum. What if I have habanero powder in my pockets? Would be marvellous to use as pocket sand for human attackers, or anything that is still vaguely humanoid. You know, can't catch me if you can't see where I'm going. Nature's pepper spray. Nature's pepper spray. Why would you have pockets in your pockets? Why wouldn't you have pockets in your pockets? That's the real question. That's the real question. You have free will and opposable thumbs. Nothing can stop you from adding all of the pockets that you would like. Think about it. Think about it. Exercise your free will. Utilize those opposable thumbs and give yourself some extra pockets. Honestly, what are we even doing here? Humans. So small-minded sometimes. Well then, I believe it is time to move into the story segment of our evening. And it has been, I think, quite some time since I've gotten to do something that I very much enjoy. We all know that I love to sit here and play the bard, but ever since we moved to this archive, you know, the walls, the structure, the stories knocking all day and night, it gets so rather suffocating, doesn't it? But that's why we have the courtyard. What better place to play the bard than by firelight in the open air? Am I right? I think I'm right. Well, some of you may remember that I have told you several tales from the town that I grew up in. These have come affectionately to be known as Tales from the Rift Town, despite the fact that I maintain I did not, in fact, grow up in a Rift Town. You all are living in some kind of alternate reality, and I refuse to take notes about that. There's no criticism of this at this time. So, I once told a story, quite a long time ago, about a music teacher of mine. And I do not know how many of you even remember this story. So because of that, and because I do know that we definitely have some people here who did not experience the story the first time around, and because it's been such a long time that you may have forgotten some of the details, I am going to tell you this story from the beginning, so that we're all on the same page. And for those of you that have heard this story before, don't just tune out, because there has been a recent update, a recent development. That's right, the story, it continues. Oh, Jordan, Rifttown witches sing this song, doo-dah, doo-dah. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so settle in, get comfortable, everyone. I'm going to tell you the story of my music teacher. Now, in brief, in very brief, I grew up in a very small town with some weirdness, and if you've been around for any length of time, you will know that it was actually a very common experience growing up for people to just disappear. People to just disappear. I'm talking teachers that, you know, are there for class one day and then mysteriously overnight decided to resign and move out of the town entirely without any explanation whatsoever. And all of the adults treated it as though this was just normal. Oh no, they were planning to leave for quite some time, kind of thing. or, you know, a new family would move in across the street and they would exist for about a month and a half and then mysteriously just boop, gone, moved away. This was incredibly normal where I grew up. It was a very small town, the kind where everyone knew everyone else. But yet it was also completely normal for people to just seemingly blink out of existence, and no one questioned it. You didn't question it. It was just, oh yeah, they moved away. Oh, yeah, interesting timing, but all right. Yeah, you know, this was normal. This was normal. And it's probably one of those reasons why I am so big about not gaslighting yourself. Because if enough people tell you, this is a normal occurrence, this is normal, you begin to think that, oh yeah, it actually is normal. And then you start listening to those little gut reactions that are, you know, the weight of 1,000 ancestors screaming into the void at you to run, idiot. So this is the town that I grew up in. Now, when I hit third grade, which is still family in elementary school, something interesting happened. And that is, there was some construction going on to both the elementary school and to the high school in town. Ostensibly, they were expanding the elementary school, but that required them to basically knock down one whole wing of the elementary school in order to build a new wing. And they were doing the same sort of thing at the high school, where they knocked down one wing in order to build a whole new addition to hold the 7th and 8th graders. Now, during this construction year, I, being in third grade, along with all of the other third graders in town, was shifted to the middle school for third grade. So the middle school, which used to be 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, now became 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, with 7th and 8th being transferred over to the high school, despite the fact that it was under construction. Now, this building that we were in as the middle school was once the town's old high school. And if anyone remembers, just for a little flavour, just for a little jogging of your memory, this high school was built pretty much smack dab in the centre of downtown, on what used to be a cemetery for the town. Yes, before the high school was built, they exhumed all of the bodies out of the cemetery, not just for the school, but for most of the downtown. They exhumed all of the bodies and moved them well across town, up on top of a hill, where they established a proper cemetery. Fun town history, right? Completely normal thing for humans to do. Just relocate an entire cemetery. That won't have far-reaching effects into the future. So this is where we are now in third grade in this middle school. And third grade is where music class no longer was, you know, just kind of the unstructured music class of your youth, where maybe you're given a tambourine or, you know, some other kind of percussion instrument, some maracas, whatever have you, and are vaguely expected to just jam along in time with some tune that's happening, you know, little kid stuff. But no, we're now in third grade, and music class is now becoming structured. I'm sure many of you can relate, but this structure means, that's right, we were all issued a recorder. Yes, this is the era of you will learn to play this instrument as a gateway instrument to all other instruments, and yet no one ever seems to play a recorder. You know, like, I feel like it's a pretty universal experience, at least in this country, that you learn to play a recorder when you're young. But yet, look out around the world. Look at orchestras. Look at bands. When was the last time you saw a recorder in the New York Philharmonic? Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. This is not a thing. This is not a thing. So anyway, we get to learn how to play the recorder, and we also have a new music teacher. Because obviously the elementary school music teacher is still at the elementary school, and we're in an entirely different school now. So now we have a new teacher, and I am going to refer to this teacher as Tony Baker. His actual name was actually something very simple, very, very much like that, with a last name that was in fact just a profession. Not the profession that he was in as a music teacher, but so Tony Baker is what we're going to call this music teacher. And he was a wonderful guy. He was an absolutely wonderful guy. He had an amazing temperament. He walked us all through learning how to play the recorder, and we did, of course, many concerts for, you know, the town and things like that. And I distinctly remember one song that we learned how to play, and it was called Hamburger with an Order of Flies. Not fries, flies. You know, just very young children doing ridiculous musical numbers for their parents and the entire town, basically, because it was a small town. Perfectly normal. Perfectly normal. Now, I also remember that during my 3rd grade year, about 2 weeks into learning how to play the recorder, Mr. Baker, our music teacher, was very impressed by me. And this was because he was expecting to teach us all how to read sheet music. That was what we were going to do. And I already read sheet music. Because I already was taking off-site piano lessons weekly and that sort of deal. So I already knew and understood and could read sheet music. And because of this, yes, I know I'm an overachiever. This is nothing new. Because I could already read sheet music, he was rather fond of me. And after our first concert, where everything went super well and I was given a solo and all of this, we're now about halfway through 3rd grade year, where he decides, you know what? Hey, you've done so well on the recorder. I imagine that you would also do well on another instrument. And he brought me out of our classroom, where we were having music class, to an adjoining classroom across the hall, which was empty at the time because their class was at gym. And he presented me with my very first real instrument, a clarinet. And I was like, oh, well, this is weird. What's this about? This is, interesting. Ooh, a reed. Ooh, these buttons. There's metal. I was all about it. You know, I was fascinated by this clarinet object that he had given me. And I was like, yes, I would very much like to learn how to play this. So now we continue on with the rest of our year for music, where my entire class are still muddying about with recorders, and a few of them were transferred over onto drum pads. And here I was with my recorder. Did I feel smug? No, actually, I was entirely horrified and felt socially outcast because everyone else is on, you know, these bloody recorders and a few people are on drum pads, and here I am, the only weirdo, with a full-blown woodwind. Excellent place to be. But it all went well. Going into summertime, so right before school is going to leave out for summertime, Mr. Baker lets the entire class know that over the summer he is hosting a music program for students of all ages in the middle school, so 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade and 6th grade, where 2 days a week during the summer you will come to the school, to the auditorium where the stage was and all of that, and we would begin learning instruments in a more advanced measure. So for those who are already on recorders, they would get to try out different instruments. For those of us that were already on instruments, we would start being kind of shaped into a band or an orchestra. And I remember having absolutely, positively no interest in this whatsoever. Because at the time, for me, summertime meant I get to leave school and go become a feral neighborhood goblin, basically living in the woods with all of the other children 24/7 until the streetlights came on. Did our parents know where we were? No. Did they know if we were alive? Absolutely not. Were they able to contact us in case of an emergency? No. No. The street lights came on, and then they would just count us out to see if we survived the day. This is what summertime was like to me in town, and I quite enjoyed that. So when someone told me, oh, hey, would you like to go to school 2 days a week during the summer in order to play an instrument, my first immediate thought was, no. No, that is the last thing that I would like to do. I have a thought in the woods. The teenagers collapsed it about 3 weeks ago. We finally get to go rebuild it. No, I don't want anything to do with this. But Mr. Baker, having taken the interest in me that he had taken, took it upon himself to call my parents and inform them of this program and suggest that they sign me up. Which naturally happened. Because why wouldn't it? So I am now part of this budding orchestra in town, and Mr. Baker is obviously doing a fantastic job. Wonderful man. He's so fun. He kind of recognised, I think, that even though he was attempting to build an orchestra out of students and basically make a proper music program for the town, that in order for him to prove it to the higher ups, it did have to be, you know, student-based and voluntary and for kids to come in during the summertime when they wouldn't want to, that kind of thing. So he made every effort to make it not feel like, oh, we're losing our summer to go to music class, and to make it fun and exciting and engaging. And he did a wonderful job with it. He truly did. This man was marvellous. Marvellous. During this time, I not only learned how to play the clarinet, but I also was introduced to the oboe. Because what is an oboe if not a clarinet with a funny mouthpiece? So we're 2 instruments deep now. 4th grade arrives, and the summer program was such a wild success that now we have a full-blown actual orchestra program this year, where instead of having music class, we would go to the auditorium and everyone would sit and play an instrument, and there were sometimes after school like rehearsals if you were what we called a floater. Because it was a proper orchestra structure where each year, each grade, was its own orchestra, essentially. So there was the 3rd grade orchestra, there was the 4th grade orchestra, you know, the 5th and the 6th grades. And then there were certain people who kind of floated between them. They were the students who were very well adapted, who were, you know, a little bit ahead, as it were. Overachievers. Jeez. Something stuck in my throat there. So naturally, I was one of these students because I just excel at things. It's a burden, truly. That's not a humble brag. It actually is a burden. Anyway, so, you know, for these students that floated in between the orchestras, like me, and there were a few others, what was slowly forming was an actual smaller version of an orchestra that was being groomed to start going to state level competitions. It was no longer just music class. It was, oh, well, I have this student and this student and this student and this student, and oh, they're very good, and if I put them together, we can start going to competitions. You guys are great. And so that's what happened. But throughout this process of 4th grade, us lucky floaters continued on with this music program, when not only during our music classes during, actual school hours, but also as after school activities, we were with this man in the auditorium, practicing, learning new instruments, learning new pieces, all kinds of things. And I went from playing just the clarinet and being introduced to the oboe to playing the clarinet, the oboe, and the bassoon. Because what is a bassoon if not an overlarge oboe? Right? So now there's me and there's a bunch of other students throughout the different grade levels, and we're getting pretty close with Mr. Baker because he's honestly awesome. It wasn't just, after school program. No, this man brought snacks, and he'd joke and play with us, and it wasn't stuffy old English teacher vibes. It was, goofy music teacher who's here to have fun, but actually is teaching us a lot of things. And so, come the next year, so now we're going into 5th grade. We're going into 5th grade now, and our little orchestra of special students is now going to start doing competitions. We're going to start doing competitions, and these were school-sanctioned field trips, essentially. These were, here's a permission slip, have your parents sign it, you need to bring, a lunch, we need to have uniforms and stuff like that, which were, essentially collared shirt of the correct colour, pants of the correct colour, that kind of thing. So there was very much parent involvement in this, and also buses to bring us to these competitions, and we had done a fair few of them. And we actually did surprisingly well. Our very first competition that we had gone to was a small, regional competition, where it was us versus, I think 20 other, little mini orchestras about the same size. And for our very first competition, we took 3rd place, which is phenomenal if you think about it, because all of these other schools that had arrived had been doing this for years. They already had an established program. They already knew, what it was. This was just essentially Mr. Baker dipping his toes into this space, utilizing us, his devoted students. And to come in 3rd at something like that is honestly phenomenal for your first time competing in anything, let alone something as rigid and structured as, a child orchestra. So that was really impressive. And after that had happened, I remember very distinctly that our local newspaper sent a reporter out to come and talk to us, the students and Mr. Baker that had competed in this competition. We gave little interviews and they took our photos, and I distinctly remember that there was a nice big photo of all of us that went out into the local newspaper. It was not front page, but it was page 3 or something. It was, still a big thing. And we're talking a very small town with their very small town newspaper. So this was a huge deal. This was the type of town where you'd be in the one and only small local grocer, and someone would walk by and they would know you by name and be like, hey, I saw you were in the paper. That kind of place. This is where I grew up. So I have many memories of this newspaper article, and I had family members who actually kept copies of this newspaper article because, ooh, look, she's in the paper. It was one of those things. It was like a pride moment for, the blood relations. So things continue, and we continue doing these competitions, and we're just getting better and better and better. And we actually ended up taking 1st place and being qualified to go to the all-state competition, so not just like small regional ones, but like the actual, these are going to be little bands from all over the state, and you're all going to be competing, and the winners are going to go for a national competition in Washington, D.C. And we went and we competed in this, and we got second place in all-state, which, again, phenomenal. This was our school's first year doing it. Well done, us. Very proud. Very proud. And we qualified to go to nationals, because it was first, second, and third that would go to nationals in DC. So here we are, in second. We're meant to go to nationals. We did not, in fact, end up going to nationals. As I recall, something had happened with the school board around this time when it came to the bus service that they typically used for field trips. So we commonly took, like, not the actual company Greyhound, but a Greyhound type bus service would take us to a lot of our field trips, you know, like when we'd go to Massachusetts or whatever have you. There was some kind of internal struggle going on between the town and this bus service, and they weren't going to take us down to DC, so we didn't end up getting to go, which sucked, but whatever. So now we're going into 6th grade, and at this point, I have learned how to play the clarinet, the oboe, the bassoon, the saxophone, the xylophone, drums, the French horn, the glockenspiel, just because I thought it sounded funny. And I was still fighting, like, hey, I'd like to learn the violin, please. That's the only thing I actually want to learn. I'd like to... No? Because we're not doing strings? Okay. That kind of sucks, but alright. Now, mind you, all of these instruments that I learned how to play, I learned how to play from this man, from Mr. Baker, who was an absolutely excellent teacher. And every summer, I signed up for these private tutelage lessons that he was giving, because now that he had already established this orchestra program for the whole town, and he had established, you know, like the competition branch of this program, he offered over the summer, like, private music lessons. So every summer I was taking private music lessons from this man. They were like an hour in the afternoon, either 2, 3 or 4 times a week, depending on what you signed up for. And given that my family was incredibly poor, I was doing the minimum of 2 a week, because that's all that we could realistically afford to do through the town. Get raided on. Well, thank you. Thank you for the raid, Otis. Welcome in, everyone. I'm just telling an interesting story about my music teacher growing up and how he maybe doesn't exist. Anyway, so my summers then involved me specifically leaving from swimming at the lake or the pond, going home, getting dressed, grabbing my instrument, being dropped off at the high school, not the middle school, but the actual high school auditorium where he was doing these classes, because he was also tutoring high school students and the acoustics were better there and that sort of thing. Multiple times a week over the course of years. There were also competitions that we went to multiple times per week. Well, not multiple times throughout the year. Like every couple of months or so, there were competitions that we went to that were led by him. He was our chaperone. He was the teacher bringing us there. He was responsible for the children. And he also, throughout this time, decided, you know what, not everyone in this school is suited to playing an instrument. Let's do a chorus as well. So when it came to music, you had either the choice of chorus or, you know, band, as it was called, even though it wasn't the way most schools have, you know, band, it's like a marching band. Ours was very much not like that. Ours was an orchestra. And so you had chorus or band that you could do. And then there were some students like myself who refused to choose and therefore did both. Did I mention I'm a wee bit of an overachiever? A wee bit of an overachiever. But what this meant is that not only was I taking private music lessons with this guy, doing after-school activities with this guy multiple times a week for band, but I was also with him in classes for music for band during the school day, and on other school days, being in classes with him for music for chorus, and also doing after-school activities for chorus when we were doing practices, and doing concerts for chorus whilst we were doing those for the whole town. So this guy was like massively integrated into my life at this time. He was someone that I saw regularly. I honestly saw him more than most members of my own family. I had built a connection with this guy. Not a weird, not anything weird. He was not one of those. He would not be appearing in the Epstein files kind of guy, but just that awesome teacher who was always there with you, doing stuff, and it was great. The end of 6th grade was a terrible time. It was an absolute terrible time for me personally, because leaving 6th grade essentially meant graduating from the middle school building to the high school building for 7th and 8th grade, because junior high was integrated to the high school. And that meant leaving behind Mr. Baker and having to go and have the high school music teacher instead. So it was, in fact, the big sad. And that summer, I was actually very upset, but I still took the private tutelage classes with Mr. Baker throughout the summer. And I did know that even going into next year, you know, he was still going to be doing this, and he was teaching, you know, he was offering these classes not just to us middle schoolers, but also to the junior high and the high school students as well. So I could still continue to have classes with him over the summer and that kind of thing. And I was like, well, it sucks, but all right. At least it's not the world ending. So enter 7th grade. Enter 7th grade, and we find out that, oh joy of joys, Mr. Baker is actually going to be our music teacher for 7th and 8th grade. Because they worked out some kind of thing with the town where he was going to do 7th and 8th grade because the high school music teacher did not want to deal with the junior high kids. So let's go. We get Mr. Baker for another 2 years. How flippin' awesome is that? It was amazing. There was much joy and celebration. Much joy and celebration. So now we have Mr. Baker for the next 2 years. And these 2 years continued exactly as they had before. I'm doing chorus, I'm doing band, I'm doing tutelage with him, along with other students. We have the after school programs for both chorus and, you know, our orchestra. At this point, I have learned how to play 12 different instruments under his tutelage, which is kind of nonsensical if you really think about it, but hi, overachiever. And this man continued to be a very large part of my life, and a large part of life for many of the other students who were on the same kind of track as I was, which is, we're big into music. We're doing band, we're doing chorus, we're doing the competitions. This is our thing. We're band kids. Although it was more, we're orchestra kids, because our band wasn't really a marching band. So this man was a large part of childhood, essentially. You know, there are so many core memories attached to this man, including that time that we all rode on a float procession during one summer's carnival. There was a carnival in town every year. I've told this told you this story before. There's a carnival every year, and it started with a parade. And one year, we actually had like a float in the parade where our little competition orchestra like sat on the float and played music through town. So you know, we've done all kinds of things. We've done bake sales to raise funds for competition trips and stuff like that. This man was very integrated into my early life. And then, you know, high school came and I didn't actually stay in town for high school. I transferred out. And thus was the end of my time with Mr. Baker. Now we flash forward to just a few years ago. When I was recollecting on some things in my life. And I began talking to some friends about this music teacher that I had and they were like, oh wow, he sounds awesome. And I was like, yeah, he actually was, you know, a very large part of my childhood. He was a staple, core, memory building sort of person. And I realized I have free will and modern technology. I could do what many people do. I could look up my old teacher on the internet. I could see if he has like a Facebook or something. I could like, you know, shoot him out a little message, be like, hey, Mr. Baker, I still remember you. You were such like a big part of my childhood. Right? You know? It's a thing that people do. On occasion, maybe weird people, but whatever. So I went and I started searching for him, thinking, you know, older guy, maybe he's got a Facebook or something. You know, maybe we can find him on Facebook. Or, you know, any of the other social medias that are popping out. And there was no Facebook for this man. Which, at the time when I had gone looking, this was a time in the internet where pretty much everyone had a Facebook. It's not like now, where like the only people on Facebook are, you know, your weird racist uncle. This was a time when Facebook was the platform that everyone was on. And so the fact that he didn't have a Facebook was already kind of abnormal. But I was like, all right, you know, maybe the guy just doesn't like social media, you know, whatever. You're valid. But I still kind of want to see if I can, you know, find you. Maybe I'll find your address or whatever, send a little letter in the mail, you know, that kind of thing. So I began looking in, you know, like online yellow pages and that kind of thing, trying to find Mr. Baker, tracing backwards from the town, see if maybe he, you know, went on to bigger and better things or whatever. And unfortunately, with a name like Tony Baker, it's one of those names that kind of just fades into the background noise of everything in the world, right? It's like looking for a John Smith. Not easy. And what did not help as well was that this man, Tony Baker, if I were to type his name, Tony Baker, space, town I grew up in, I run into a very immediate problem, which is there is actually an actual bakery in town called Tony's Bakery. So searching for Tony Baker is just leading me to Tony's Bakery, which is not helping at all. At all. So, again, because this was a small town where everyone knew everyone, I obviously had met his mother at one point during some kind of summer event that we were doing. I think it was an outdoor concert, one of the outdoor concerts that we did. I had like met his mother because she had like come to see him or whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. I can look up his mother, and maybe perhaps if I find his mother, I can, you know, just a little bit of internet stalking never hurts anyone. So I go looking for his mum, and I can find no reference to her anywhere. At all. Not in the old phone books, not in old voter registration rolls. This woman apparently does not exist. But I've met her. I can describe her to you. I've spoken with her. Her name was Teresa. Okay? She had a mole just there. And if anyone knows me at all, I have aphantasia, so I can't exactly just picture a person if I have never met them. Like, I don't just make up what people look like. I literally cannot do that. I cannot do that. Every character and every story that I have ever written, if I have described them, it's because their features have been taken from other people that I have seen in my life. Okay? I am incapable of inventing faces. Cannot do it. But I can tell you what she looks like. I know exactly what she looks like. She's not anywhere to be found. I'm like, all right, that's weird. But, you know, small town, not the best records when it comes to getting everything online, which is where I'm trying to look at things, which is totally reasonable, right? I mean, if I need a copy of my birth certificate, I have to travel back to my hometown into the town hall, which is this big sprawling building, to actually get a copy of my birth certificate, because I can't order one online. It's that kind of crazy. So I'm like, all right, maybe things just aren't online. This isn't going to work. I need a new tactic. So my next new tactic was to go, okay, well, maybe, because we have all of this facial recognition software and stuff going on, maybe if I take a picture of him from our old yearbook and I run it through, you know, a search engine, maybe something will pop up that's like, oh, you know, maybe this is the same guy. It's like, this sounds like a good idea. So I go to the school website and I actually find that they do have archived versions of our yearbooks, which is good because I no longer have my yearbook from 8th grade on account of a house fire. So I did have one, had a house fire, it's gone. It's also several years later, but, you know, it's archived online. So I'm scrolling through the yearbook and I'm like, all right, let's see if we can find a picture of Mr. Baker. You like that? I just casually, oh yeah, no, I had a house fire once, lost everything. Anyway, moving on. So I'm scrolling through this yearbook, attempting to find a picture of Mr. Baker. Now, every yearbook that we had, you know, the teachers were all in the yearbook as well. It'd be like, you know, Mrs. Pope, 8th grade math, you know, whatever they happen to be. And that'd be pictures, you know, like Steve Rogowski, 7th grade science. But unfortunately, there's two issues. The first issue is the archive only goes back to my 8th grade yearbook. That's the only one that's available. That's the farthest one that's available online, is my 8th grade yearbook. The second problem is that this man is nowhere in the yearbook. This man is nowhere in the yearbook. Listed for music in this yearbook, as the director of the music department, is the high school music director, who I'm going to call Mr. Adams. Now, yes, we were in the high school, and this was the high school yearbook, but 7th and 8th grade, junior high, were also in that yearbook, and we had a separate music teacher. We had Mr. Baker, but he's nowhere in this yearbook. He's not mentioned anywhere. And this is the part where I start freaking out, because I'm like, oh, hold on. Hold the phone a moment. Hold on. I have so many memories of this man. Why is it looking like he doesn't exist right now? This is getting weird. I'm uncomfortable with this. So where anyone else might have gone, that's weird. Maybe I misremember my yearbook. Oh well. I went, no, I'm not fucking insane, and I will prove that this man existed. Which I think is incredibly reasonable, honestly. think that's a reasonable thing to do. So the next thing that I decided to do was say, okay, well, we're utilising archives now. And, you know, the archived yearbook, he doesn't appear in it. But, because of all of those competitions that we had been to, and all of those concerts and things that we had done in town, I know for a fact that we have been in the local town newspaper several times. I used to have copies of these newspaper articles from when these things happened. I no longer have them. Please see aforementioned house fire. But the town paper had come and interviewed us all and taken pictures, and there was once where myself and Mr. Baker were standing together holding a trophy because we had won first place in a competition. We were on the front page of that paper. I know this exists. It used to be framed in my bedroom because I was ridiculously proud of this moment. So, to the local newspaper online archives I go. And I'm, you know, being smart about it, and rather than just endlessly scrolling through every issue ever, I decide to start by just searching his name. Tony Baker. And the only results that I get are for Tony's Bakery. So then I try my own name. And my own name does not appear anywhere at all. This is the moment where I went, wait, what? Wait, what? I have been in several articles. I have had bylines in this paper because for a while I was really into journalism and I was, you know, doing a little internship there. So I had written not only articles but opinion pieces and stuff. So my name should definitely be in this paper somewhere. And I went, all right, well, maybe their search feature is just trash. Maybe that's what it is, you know, that it's not the best user interface. Maybe it's just trash. So I sit here, and now I'm doing the crazy thing, which is scrolling through archived copies of this newspaper going back like 25 years, looking for any mention of him, myself, or the music program. And the only mention that I could find was a small article talking about Mr. Adams, the high school music teacher, taking over the music program and becoming the high school music teacher. It doesn't say anything about who he was taking over for. Just, he's taking over. There was no mention of a previous music teacher. No, nothing. It's the only thing that I could find. Which is weird. Because again, I had copies of this newspaper. And this is where I'm really starting to freak out, right? Because I'm like, no. Hold on a second. This is weird. This is weird. I know for a bloody fact that I have been in photos in this paper with this man. I know for a bloody fact that there were articles written about this man. I know for a fact that I have written articles for this paper. I also know for a fact that I have written opinion columns for this paper, and they were published. I know this. I know this. And I can't find evidence of it anywhere. So now, freaking out, this is when I finally decided to go back to my old 8th grade yearbook. And I'm scrolling through the old 8th grade yearbook that I had previously gone through looking for Mr. Baker. And this is when I discover I am not in the yearbook either. And this isn't like oh, there's a block where my name's supposed to, you know, where my photo's supposed to be and my name is under it, and I just didn't show up for picture day, kind of, I'm not in, you know, the yearbook. But being from a very small town, being from a very small town where I'm talking like, I think my graduating class, had I stayed in town for high school, would have been less than 100 children. And we all grew up together from the time that we were, you know, actual, like, toddlers. I am able to name everyone in my grade year. And I know where I fit in between those people, because there have been several times where, you know, we're lining up alphabetical order. I know that I stand between Kayla and Alex because of our last names. So in the yearbook, between Kayla and Alex is nothing. It just goes from Kayla to Alex. There's no gap whatsoever. None. None. So I'm just not there either. So I went looking for the music teacher and discovered that not only apparently does he not exist, but apparently neither do I. Apparently neither do I, according to town records for the newspaper or the yearbook, which is, needless to say, interesting. So this is where our story originally left off, which is I had the most amazing music teacher throughout a large portion of my life who taught me how to play 12 instruments and brought me to multiple competitions, was also somewhat of a confidant to me whilst growing up. And he apparently does not exist. And also, apparently I don't exist either. This is where the story left off the last time I shared it with you. And oh, if only that was where it left off. If only. But of course not, because this is Tale from a Rift Town, and of course, it gets worse. So, picture this. I am lying in bed, dying of con plague after the convention, gone from you all for 2 weeks, unable to get out of bed, just feeling like garbage. And randomly, out of nowhere, I get a phone call from a number that I do not recognise, that I do not know, but from an area code that I very much do know. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. I am assuming, at this point, that either someone I know has died horribly, and I am now being informed, or someone has absolutely lost their minds and thinks that they're going to mend some kind of broken relationship with me. Either way, I was intrigued, and maybe a little bit delirious on the cold meds that I was on. So I answer the phone, because of course I do. Why not? I have free will and no sense of balance. So I answer the phone, and lo and behold, the person on the other end turns out to be a woman who I am going to call Rachel. I've called her Rachel in previous stories before. If any of you happen to remember the story about the phone booth that was there and took my money, but apparently doesn't exist, Rachel was the girl that was with me during that story. She was a very dear friend when I was growing up. And she apparently had managed to track me down and track down my number in order to give me a call, because she apparently had, you know, one of those moments of nostalgia and tried to look me up online and couldn't find me because I'm a VTuber, so any references to who I am are basically non-existent. But she ended up contacting some people that I used to know and managed to follow a chain to getting my phone number, and she gave me a call. And, we chatted and did that whole, how you doing, catching up thing. How's life? Yeah, it's been like, 2 decades. What's up? Still like, Jolly Ranchers? we did the whole thing, right? Catching up, as one does. Totally normal. Totally normal. Now, the way in which Rachel and I initially became friends was because we both played clarinet in the orchestra. We were both introduced to each other by Mr. Baker. And so, with her on the phone, and the weirdness of it all still floating around in my head, I casually asked her, hey, do you by chance remember Mr. Baker? And she goes, who? Is it Mr. Baker? He was our music teacher. He did band and chorus. He goes, oh, you mean Mr. Adams? No, I mean Mr. Baker. She's like, well, the only music teacher that I remember having is Mr. Adams. I was like, right, yeah, no, he was a high school teacher. But, I mean, who did you have for a music teacher in middle school? 6th grade, 5th grade, 4th grade, 3rd grade? And she's like, no, I'm pretty sure I just had Mr. Adams. I was like, okay. Well, who did you have for a music teacher in elementary school? Do you remember her? And she goes, no. Pretty sure Mr. Adams was the only music teacher I ever had. Now, mind you, I know for a fact that in elementary school, like actual elementary school, I'm talking like kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. For kindergarten, there was no music teacher. Your kindergarten teacher did music with you. For 1st grade, one of the 1st grade teachers would do music, while one of the other teachers would do gym. Come 2nd grade is when we actually got a proper music teacher. And her name, I'm going to call her Miss Smith. But here is this now fully grown woman, Rachel, who I grew up with, telling me with absolute certainty and clarity that she had the exact same music teacher from the time she was in kindergarten to the time she graduated high school, across 3 different school buildings, and none of this registers to her as weird. And I also have the knowledge that when I was looking through those newspaper archives, that the article about Mr. Adams taking over the music program, by date, would have been at the time when we were already in 7th grade. So it's actually impossible for that to be correct. So yes, now I have some kind of real-world confirmation that something weird is going on here. Something very, very weird is going on here. I cannot explain it. I just know it ain't right. Dear God, you did come from a parallel universe. Well, I told you. It's just odd. It's just odd. Now, I did go, and when I realised that she couldn't remember Mr. Baker, I did ask her about a couple of other, people in town. Like, hey, do you remember Angie? Which is a girl whose family moved in and then they were gone a month later. And she was like, yeah, I remember Angie. We used to play. I was like, yeah, okay. So, she disappeared and you remember her. And I was like, hey, do you remember that science teacher that we had that just like up and disappeared in the middle of the night one night. She's like, yeah, no, I remember him. I'm like, right. But you don't remember Mr. Baker? She's like, no, I don't know Mr. Baker. I'm like, Tony Baker. Like, oh, the guy that runs the bakery, Tony. Like, no, the music teacher, Tony. She has absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. None whatsoever. Weird, right? Yeah, it's a bit odd. So anyway, that is my tale from the weird rift town that I grew up in, along with the update, because the plot thickens. The plot thickens, because I now have confirmation that she remembers I exist, because if she didn't remember that I existed, she wouldn't have called me in the first place. But she somehow believes, despite all logic, that she's had the same music teacher since kindergarten. Mr. Adams. Weird. Weird. Perhaps Tony the Baker taught music on the side or something. No, Otis, unfortunately not, because there's pictures of Tony, the actual baker, and it's not the same guy. Not even accounting for age, just he's not the same guy. 100%. And I say this because Tony Baker, the music teacher, was an entirely different race from Tony, the actual baker. So this is not a case of, oh, maybe you just don't recognize him anymore. No, definitely not the same person. At least it's like maybe half a step closer to the truth. No, I don't think so. I don't think. Oh, where do you even go with this? Hi! Yeah, town hall. I'd like to know why I was removed from the newspaper and my high school yearbook. Well, my junior high yearbook. And why this music teacher was wiped off the face of the planet, please. Yes, please let me know. Please let me know. Anyway, thank you all so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate you hanging out with me and the opportunity to get to play the bard a little bit, which we all know I love doing. Next week, of course, we will be back right here with a new Choose Your Own Horror Story, where we're going to see if you've learned anything at all from your previous encounters. That next stream should be, assuming that I have the right date, April 9th, which is next Thursday. Same bat time, same bat channel. And I appreciate all of you. You're scared? Oh, don't be scared. It's probably okay. Well, until next time, may harmony find you, and nothing else.